I'll be there as soon as I can. Promise. Remember, I got that other recruit coming today. Yeah. New hopeful from the Institute. I know, what a joke. You and I both know they're not going to choose our faction. They rarely ever do. I mean, not that we would want them if they didn't want to be here, but... You know the Institute. They got to meet all the overseers and learn about all the different factions and all that. Though, you know, normally I can tell within just looking at a picture if they're going to fit in here or not. And this one, they ain't got it. Exactly. Yeah, no, it's it'll be a very short meeting, I can tell you that. So you hold the fort down and be there as soon as I can. Yeah, I know. Well, just, I don't know, count the inventory again. I'll be there real soon. Yeah, don't want to get on the bad side of the Institute. Again, you're right, yeah. Yeah, why does everyone talk about that? I apologise profusely for that little mishap. Although you gotta admit, it was hilarious, wasn't it? Anyway, they'll probably be here any moment, so I will, I'll catch you later, alright? Yeah, I'll be there soon, don't worry. Okay, yeah, see ya. Oh, you're already here. I am so sorry. How much of that did you hear? No. I'm sorry about that. It's really nothing personal, really. I'm sure you're a great person, and I'm sure that you'll make a great vampire once you're turned. But this faction, we work a bit differently than some of the other ones that you may have met so far. And it takes a certain kind of person to be part of our faction. I'm a bit choosy on who's underneath me. And I don't think this is gonna work out. So I mean it's fine if you wanna just, you know, head on out and, you know, then I don't have to waste either of our time. Gonna make me do the whole spiel, aren't you? Alright, well, I suppose might as well hear what it's like, this side of things. I'm Ronnie, by the way. What's your name? Alright, well, good to meet you. Well, my full name's Veronica, but don't call me that. You're still a human, I could still kill you pretty easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are my manners? Would you like one? Oh, you don't smoke? That's good. That's good. I'm trying to quit myself. Of course, I've been trying to quit for 20 years, so, you know. Anyway, this faction, the faction that I'm the overseer of, we are a bit different than your typical vampire faction, I suppose. You see, most factions out there, they're more of a country club, really. They don't do anything. Most of them, they just sit around in their fancy houses during who knows what with their time, bossing around humans or whatever. I don't really know. It's a bit superfluous. Very superfluous, if you ask me. So most people who go through the whole process that you've been through with the Institute to actually be turned into a vampire, most people, all they really care about is the stuff for them, you know. The power, the prestige, the connections, and of course the eternal life ain't bad either. Well, is it eternal life or is it eternal death? I don't know, is it sort of an undead category? You know, there's sort of debate out there about whether we're actually alive or not. whatever. It lasts pretty much forever as long as you don't get killed. And there's only a few ways to kill a vampire, as I'm sure you know. So that is mostly what people like about being a vampire. They're all just in it for themselves. That's not necessarily a bad thing, I guess, but it's pretty pointless in the grand scheme of things. You see, my faction, we actually serve a purpose here. So you've learned all of this stuff about vampires, about our powers and limitations, things like that. A lot more power than limitations, but you know, there's a few things. So now that you know that vampires exist, it would be a bit foolish to think that vampires are the only creatures of myth and legend that actually exist, wouldn't it? I mean, maybe you think that, I guess, but that's not the case. See, humans are not that creative. All that humans do when they write their stories is they take the things that they see and they put them down into words and maybe change things a bit, exaggerate things, make things a bit more dramatic or a bit more appealing, I suppose. But no, they're not very creative when it comes to coming up with the things that go bump in the night. Mostly, they take their inspiration from things that actually do exist. So, you know that vampires exist. We ain't the only thing out there. There's something else that, I guess you could call it our arch rival, really. They're sort of exactly the opposite of vampires, quite a lot of ways. Any guesses what that might be? Very good. Werewolves. Yeah. There's a few other things, but we'll just talk about werewolves for now. They pose the biggest problem to people like you and me, and to humans too. I mean, they can be an absolute menace sometimes, you know? Here's the thing. With vampires, once you're turned, you have your vampire powers all the time. You're stronger, your senses are heightened, things like that. Of course, you have a ravenous hunger for blood that you've got to sort of learn how to curb, but you are still fully in control of yourself. Now, werewolves, completely different story. First of all, they only turn into werewolves on the full moon. Obviously, everyone knows that. It's one thing that the human stories do get right. So most of the time, they are themselves as a human. But on that one night of the month, they completely lose any sort of recollection of who they are as a person and are taken over by these awful beasts. I mean, yeah, they look like wolves, but they're bigger and they're more vicious and they're more gruesome and they're more bold about what they hunt. Kill their own brother. They were standing in front of them. Wouldn't even know the difference, really. Yeah, it's quite a problem. Now, there are some werewolves out there, some packs and things like that, that they know how to handle their own turn. You know, they get away from civilians or they chain themselves up in basements or something like that. But they know how to turn without accidentally hurting people. But there are some out there who don't know how to manage it. Well, they don't care. Those are the ones that pose a problem. And you see, while all the other vampire factions are just sitting up in their mansions and things like that, somebody has to control those wolves, those rogue beasts who would wreak havoc on humans and vampires alike. That's where I come in. Me and my faction. We're the ones who go out there on the front lines of a centuries-old war and keep those pups in line. So, obviously, when I'm meeting potentials like you, I gotta make sure that whoever joins my faction, that they got it. That they've got a fire inside, a resolve. You know, I'm not looking too much for physical strength, things like that, because that you're gonna get just from being turned into a vampire. But it's the all the other stuff. You gotta be fearless. You gotta be loyal. Things like that. Because it is definitely a dangerous job. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it for you. There's well, we definitely have the highest mortality rate of any of the factions. But obviously there's a reason for that. However, I of course, I do my part to make sure that the people I send out to deal with rogue wolves, they're prepared. They know what they're doing. You see, everyone who joins my faction, they are very highly trained in how to kill wolves and how to defend themselves too. You know, everything from hand-to-hand combat to actual weapons specialties. Well, everyone's got their own sort of preferences, what kinds of weapons they like. You see, most of us, we tend to stay away from things like guns. They're just, honestly, they're a bit clunky, yeah, a bit crass, really. And when you fire a gun, even if you've got a silencer, you're still going to hear it. So, most people, in the name of stealth, they like to hunt with other things, especially the older vampires within our group. So instead of guns, we've got quite a few people who use things like this instead. Yeah, got quite a few archers with me. Yeah, in fact, a lot of them even like to carve their own arrowheads and things. Is it silver? That is a bit of a common misconception. Yeah, personally, I think that was a rumour that was started by the werewolves themselves. Just so you think that, you know, as long as you got something silver, you're all right and you can kill them. I think the myth originally came from alchemy. You know, in alchemy, they would associate each different kind of metal with a different celestial body. And silver was associated with the moon. Seeing as the moon is sort of the werewolf's arch nemesis, it seemed only logical that silver would be what would kill a werewolf. I don't think that's really true. Now, granted, there are still some vampires out there who prefer to use silver weapons against wolves, but for the most part we use more things like, this is stainless steel, works just the same. An arrow in the heart is going to kill most things, regardless of what metal it's made of. Although we actually, before we go out on a mission, we coat the tips of all of our weapons in this special formula. Here, I've got a sample of it right here. Here we go. This is called Midnight Oil. It was developed by, I believe, some monks that were friendly with the vampires back in 1200s, 1300s, something like that. It's a very, very long time ago. Haven't altered the recipe because we haven't needed to, but yeah, it's called midnight oil, and it's made of all sorts of unpleasant things for wolves. Wolfsbane, first and foremost, as well as a few other types of poisons and not nice things. Let's just say that. So, we've got our midnight oil. We've got some people who are archers, some people who prefer, you know, more things like swords, daggers, things like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, what do I use? Well, as an overseer, I have a weapon that has been passed down from overseer to overseer in our faction for hundreds, maybe even close to 1,000 years. Yeah, she's quite a beautiful weapon, rather graceful. Would you like to take a look at her? Of course. Yeah. Got her down here. There you are. Lovely, isn't she? It's very nice sort of curvature to her. Makes it much easier to wield. This was from back in the era where people used to name their weapons. And her name is Nightmare. A bit on the nose, but no way I'm changing her. I quite like her, really. Yeah, nice and lightweight. Very easy to attack quickly. It's got a hilt here that's comfortable enough for one hand, but also large enough that you could use two if you wanted. She is quite the impressive weapon, if I do say so myself. Anyway, so each new faction member gets their own weapon specialty and are extensively trained and tested before I ever set them out on a mission. You know, the funny thing is, as much as the other factions, the other vampires, might look down on us a bit for being so, I don't know, strong, powerful, useful to them, whatever. Not like we ever get a thank you. But we are actually incredibly, incredibly important to them. In fact, many times in, you know, probably once or twice a decade, there's a group of wolves who sort of band together and they decide that they're going to try to take on the evil vampires. So they will actually attack one of the other factions. Now, who do you think that they call when something like that happens? Exactly. They call me. And my captains, my soldiers, they are the ones that save them from the big bad wolf. So, it might be a bit of a dangerous life that we lead, but it's very important. Also quite heroic, really, if you think about it. Because we save not only other vampires, but also humans. All the time there are wolves who love to just go through and ravage an entire village or even a big city, you know. You should have seen London here in the 1800s or so. It was awful. Although, honestly, there were quite a lot of monstrous humans around during that time too, so sometimes it was hard to tell if someone was a supernatural monster or just a human one. Anyway, I wasn't around back then. I'm actually one of the youngest overseers. Actually, I might be the youngest. Yeah, like I said, we have a higher mortality rate than some. But we very much take care of our own here. Yeah, you join this faction, your family. you are top priority. I'm going to make sure that nothing happens to you to the best of my ability, to the best of your ability. It's a difficult job. Sometimes it's hard to handle, but we're here for each other, so. Anyway, I'm sure that none of that actually interests you. You look like someone who very much would appreciate more of the luxurious side of things, being a vampire. Who have you met so far? Just out of curiosity, out of the other overseers. Okay. Yeah. What did you think of them? Yeah, that's about right. Anyway, I know that there's a lot of other overseers who can offer you a lot more comfort, I suppose. But here you would be a hero. Oh, and just for the record, what we do here, it's actually quite lucrative. Yeah, especially when any of those little big bad wolves decide to take on one of the other factions and we come to the rescue. We don't do that for free. So those very wealthy other factions, they keep us in comfort too. Of course, anything else that might go bump in the night and scare some of those aristocratic vampires, we'll take care of anything, really. Anyway, so I won't waste any more of your time. Do you have any other questions for me before you decide to leave here and never see me again? You might be interested in joining us. Really? Not normally wrong about people. Well, it's actually somewhat a pleasant surprise when I am. Let's just say that. You really might be interested here. All right. Well, anything else I can answer for you? Oh, all of the rules of the Institute. Yeah, they have quite a lot of rules, don't they? Here's the thing. You're going to be putting your life on the line. Not just for me, not just for vampires, but really for the good of the world in general. Because of that, I don't care much what you do with your other time. Now, obviously we don't want to get on the bad side of the Institute, so if there was anything that was really bad, I suppose we would have to address it, but for the most part, you keep your nose down, you keep out of trouble with them, and I'm going to basically let you do what you want. Now, obviously there are rules about, you know, who and when you feed on and things like that. Although there's also these wonderful things called blood cafes. Yeah, they actually pay humans to come in so we can feed off of them. It's a bit macabre, really. But there are some humans who love it. So, and they get nicely compensated, and we get blood and don't have to go hunting or anything like that. We do plenty of hunting on our own without having to track down humans. Anyway, so there's lots of different options for things like that. And again, as long as you don't completely get on the bad side of the Institute, it's really fine. Yeah. What's it like being turned? Darling, if you're afraid of the whole turning process, then I can tell you right now, this place isn't going to be for you. Oh, you're just curious. Okay. Well, it's that's not so bad. I mean, it hurts a bit, but some people actually think that it's sort of a good hurt, like a hurt where it hurts, but it also feels good at the same time. Yeah. I don't remember mine actually. It was a few decades ago. Although I suppose if it was really awful, I probably would still remember it. So, you know, you get over it. Especially here, you've got quite a lot of other things to worry about. You really might be interested in joining. It's a pleasant surprise. Well, you can't just go and make a decision right now. It sounds like you've still got plenty of other overseers that you need to meet, don't you? Yeah, you'll need to go around. I mean, that's the Institute's policy. They want to make sure that you know all of your options before you make a decision. So you go and you meet all of the other overseers, hear what they maybe have to offer you, and maybe one of them will appeal to you a bit more. But if not, if you listen to all of them and meet all of them and you still want to be here, not gonna stop you. Like I said, it'll be a while before you actually get any sort of werewolf killing action. But it's a good place. It's a good place to be, really. I found my family here. More family than I ever had, really, in life. Yeah. Anyway, I suppose I shouldn't take up any more of your time, and I do have a raid tonight, actually. We heard of this band of wolves that's sort of near the outskirts of the city, and apparently they're planning something very large, so we are going to stop them before they can. They won't know what hit them. Anyway, so I've got to get there. I've got to, get my soldiers ready to go, and you have some other overseers to meet, don't you? All right. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, I suppose. Yeah, take care of yourself out there before you get turned. You're still quite a fragile, squishy little human. Well, maybe I'll be seeing you again in the future, eh? Yeah. Best of luck with the whole turning thing. Maybe we'll meet again someday. Maybe.